Imagine this. You're sitting in your cozy kitchen, the one you've called home for decades, sipping your morning coffee. The sun's filtering through the curtains, casting warm shadows on the family photos lining the walls. But then you hear it, whispers from the next room. Your own siblings, the people you grew up with, laughing and playing in the yard as kids, now plotting behind your back. They're talking about shipping you off to a nursing home, all so they can snatch the land that's been in your family for generations. Your heart races, your hands tremble on the mug. What would you do? Would you confront them right away? Or would you play a smarter game, pretending to forget everything while remembering every single detail? That's the chilling true story we're diving into today. Siblings plotted to put me in a home and take the land. I pretended to forget, but I remembered everything. And get ready for twists that will leave you on the edge of your seat. If you're loving these heart-pounding tales of betrayal, revenge, and family secrets, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Don't miss out on more stories that feel like they're straight out of a movie. Let's jump in. The air in the old farmhouse felt heavier that autumn afternoon. Eleanor, a strong-willed woman of 50 with silver streaks in her once dark hair, had always been the rock of her family. She inherited the sprawling 100-acre plot from her parents after they passed, land rich with rolling hills, a sparkling creek, and memories of picnics under the big oak tree. It wasn't just dirt and grass to her, it was her legacy, her sanctuary. But lately, things had changed. Her siblings, Mark and Lisa, who lived in the city and only visited when they needed something, had been acting strange. More phone calls, more surprise drop-ins, always with that fake smile plastered on their faces. Eleanor wasn't old or frail, not by a long shot. She still tended her garden, drove into town for groceries, and even volunteered at the local library. But her husband had died 5 years ago, leaving her alone in the big house. The loneliness crept in sometimes, like fog rolling over the fields, but she pushed it away with busy hands and a determined spirit. That day, though, everything shattered. She was in the living room folding laundry when she heard the front door creak open. Mark and Lisa had shown up unannounced again, carrying a basket of store-bought muffins as if that made it okay. "Just checking on you, sis," Mark said, his voice too cheerful, too forced. Eleanor smiled back, hiding the unease twisting in her gut. They chatted about the weather, the neighbors, nothing deep. But then she excused herself to the kitchen to make tea, leaving them in the den. As she reached for the kettle, their voices drifted through the thin wall. At first, it was murmurs, but Eleanor froze when she caught the words. "She's forgetting things more and more," Lisa whispered, her tone laced with fake concern. "Last time, she couldn't remember where she put her keys. We need to act soon." Mark chuckled softly, a sound that sent chills down Eleanor's spine. "Yeah, the land's worth a fortune now with that developer sniffing around. If we get her into a home, we can sell it quick, split the profits, finally get what we deserve after all these years of her hogging it." Eleanor's heart pounded like a drum in her chest, her blood plotting to declare her incompetent, to lock her away in some sterile facility while they cashed in on her home. Tears stung her eyes, but rage bubbled up stronger. How dare they? She gripped the counter, steadying herself, her mind racing. Memories flooded back. Childhood games where Mark would cheat at hide-and-seek, Lisa always jealous of Eleanor's close bond with her parents. It all made sense now, their sudden worry about her health, the subtle questions about her memory. She wanted to storm in, scream at them, expose their greed right there, but something stopped her. A quiet voice inside whispered, "Play smart. Let them think they've won." Wiping her eyes, she forced a shaky breath and carried the tea tray back, pretending she hadn't heard a thing. "Sugar for you, Mark?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm inside. That night, alone in her bed, Eleanor couldn't sleep. The betrayal cut deep, like a knife twisting in her heart. She felt vulnerable, scared, but also a spark of defiance igniting. "They think I'm losing my mind," she thought, staring at the ceiling. "Fine, I'll give them what they want, or so they'll believe." The idea formed slowly, a plan born from pain and cunning. She'd act forgetful, lure them into revealing more, gather proof. No one would take her land, not without a fight. The next morning, Eleanor started small. When Lisa called to check in, Eleanor forgot their last conversation. "Oh, honey, was that yesterday? My mind is a bit fuzzy these days." Lisa's voice perks up, eager. "See, we should talk about options, like a nice home where they can help you." Eleanor's stomach churned with disgust, but she played along, her voice quivering just enough. Inside, she was sharp as ever, jotting notes in a hidden journal under her mattress. Dates, times, exact words, they'd all go in there. Each entry fueled her resolve, turning hurt into a burning need for justice. Days turned into weeks, and the siblings ramped up their visits. Mark brought pamphlets for nursing homes, glossy pictures of smiling elders that made Eleanor's skin crawl. "This place looks perfect, Elle. They'd take good care of you." She nodded absently, misplacing her glasses or repeating questions, all while watching their eyes gleam with greed. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the fields, Eleanor overheard them again in the yard. "She's slipping fast," Mark said. "We can get a doctor to sign off soon. The land deal's almost ready. Millions, Lisa, millions." Eleanor's hands shook as she wrote it down, tears blurring the ink. The pain was raw, but so was her anger. How could family do this? Yet, in the quiet moments, doubt crept in. Was she strong enough to see this through? The loneliness hit harder now, but she pushed on, building her case brick by brick. Little did they know her forgetfulness was her weapon, and as the plot thickened, secrets deeper than the land's roots began to surface. What would happen when she remembered everything? Stick around for part 2. You won't believe the shockwaves coming. Here we go with part 2 of this gripping story. Siblings plotted to put me in a home and take the land. I pretended to forget, but I remembered everything. And picture this, the farmhouse at dusk. Golden light fading over the fields Eleanor loved so much. She's alone now, heart still pounding from the latest overheard whisper. Her siblings think she's fading away, but every night, under the soft glow of her bedside lamp, she pulls out that hidden journal and writes. Each word is a quiet act of rebellion, a shield against the betrayal that cuts deeper than she ever imagined. The loneliness hurts, the anger burns, but the plan? It's growing stronger. What happens when the trap finally snaps shut? Let's find out. If these stories of hidden strength, family secrets, and sweet justice keep you hooked, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Let's dive back in. Weeks passed like slow-moving clouds over the farm. Eleanor played her part perfectly. She forgot simple things, where she left her favorite teacup, what day the mail came, even Mark's birthday once. Each slip made Lisa's eyes light up with fake sympathy. "Poor thing," Lisa would say, patting Eleanor's hand like she was a child. "We just want what's best for you." Inside, Eleanor felt sick. Their touches felt cold, their smiles sharp as thorns. But Eleanor was watching, always watching. She noted every visit, every phone call, every sneaky comment. In her journal, hidden under the loose floorboard in her bedroom closet, the pages filled up fast. October 15. Mark brought doctor forms, said it's just in case. Lisa nodded like it was already decided. October 22. Overheard in kitchen. Appraiser coming next week. Land could fetch $3 million easy. The words stared back at her like proof she wasn't crazy. She wasn't losing her mind. They were losing their souls. One rainy afternoon, the siblings arrived with a surprise guest, Dr. Harlan, a quiet man with thick glasses and a clipboard. Eleanor knew him from town. He'd treated her husband years ago. Mark introduced him brightly. "Dr. Harlan's here to chat, sis. Just a friendly checkup." Eleanor's stomach twisted, but she smiled weakly. "Oh, okay. I forget things sometimes." She let her voice tremble just right. They sat in the living room. Dr. Harlan asked gentle questions. "What day is it? Can you name the president?" Eleanor answered slowly, mixing up a few details on purpose. She saw Mark and Lisa exchange quick glances, victory in their eyes. When the doctor left, they stayed behind. "See," Lisa said softly, "he's worried too. A nice facility would be safer. You wouldn't be alone." Eleanor looked at them with wide, confused eyes. "But this is my home." Her voice cracked for real this time. The hurt was real. Mark patted her shoulder. "We know, Elle, but think of the money. We could all be set. You'd have care 24/7. Money, always money. Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes, but she swallowed them. "Maybe you're right," she whispered. That night, she cried into her pillow, not from weakness, but from the raw pain of it all. How could the little brother who once begged her to read him bedtime stories now scheme to steal her life? How could the sister she'd protected from bullies in school look at her like a problem to solve? The betrayal ached in her chest like a bruise that wouldn't heal. But anger kept her going. She added more to the journal, recordings from her old phone hidden in the den during their talks, dates of every pamphlet they left, even photos of the developer signs popping up along the road. Then came the big push. Mark and Lisa scheduled a family meeting with a lawyer. They sat Eleanor down at the kitchen table, papers spread out like a trap. "This is a guardianship petition. It would let Mark and Lisa handle your affairs for your protection." Eleanor stared at the documents, pretending to struggle to read them. I don't understand," she said, voice small. Inside, her mind was crystal clear. She recognized every line. They were rushing to declare her incompetent before she could fight back. Lisa leaned in, voice sweet as honey. "Sign here, honey. It'll be easier for everyone." Eleanor's hand hovered over the pen. For a moment, doubt flooded her. What if she really was slipping? What if fighting made her the bad one? But then she remembered the land, her parents' graves under the oak, the creek where she'd taught her nieces to fish, the house filled with laughter long ago. No, she wouldn't let greed win. She set the pen down. "I need time to think," she said quietly. Mark's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Of course, take all the time you need." They left, thinking the trap was closing. But Eleanor had one more card to play. Late that night, she called an old friend, a retired lawyer from church. She told him everything, voice steady now. He listened, shocked. "Send me copies of those notes, Eleanor. We'll build a case. They won't touch your land." As she hung up, a strange calm settled over her. The forgetful act had worked. They'd confessed more than they knew. But the real storm was coming. Eleanor felt it in her bones. She was ready to remember everything. And just when it seemed the siblings had won, something unexpected surfaced from the past, a secret Eleanor had buried deep, one that could change everything. Imagine the moment everything flips. The farmhouse kitchen, once warm with family smells, now feels like a courtroom. Eleanor sits at the head of the table, no longer the confused old woman they thought she was. Her eyes are clear, sharp, full of fire. The siblings' faces drain of color as the truth crashes down. But the biggest shock? It's not just about the land. It's about a secret hidden for decades, one that changes who they thought they were. The "and" part hits hard. Ready for the explosion? If these tales of clever comebacks, family drama, and jaw-dropping twists keep you glued to your screen, hit subscribe and turn on notifications now. More stories like this are coming your way. Let's jump right back in. The day arrived like a storm no one saw coming. Mark and Lisa had set up the final meeting in the living room. Lawyer present, guardianship papers fresh and ready, doctor's note tucked in a folder. They walked in confident, almost smug. "This is for your own good, Elle," Mark said, voice smooth like he was doing her a favor. Lisa added, "You'll be safe and we'll handle everything." Eleanor sat quietly, hands folded in her lap, looking small and tired. They thought the trap was shut. But Eleanor had been waiting. Her retired lawyer friend had reviewed every note, every recording, every sneaky photo. He'd filed counters quietly, proof of fraud, undue influence, greed. Eleanor had also dug deeper into old family boxes in the attic during her forgetful nights. What she found there, it shook her to her core. She waited until they all sat down. The lawyer started reading the petition aloud. Eleanor listened, head bowed. Then, slowly, she lifted her eyes. "I remember everything," she said. Her voice was calm, strong. No tremble, no fog. The room went dead silent. Mark laughed nervously. "What do you mean, sis? You've been forgetting." "I pretended," Eleanor cut in. Every lost key, every repeated question, every confused look, it was all to let you talk, to let you confess. She reached under the table and pulled out a thick folder. Pages spilled out, transcripts from hidden recordings, dates and times of their whispers, copies of the developer offers they'd hidden, even bank statements showing they'd already spent money they didn't have yet. Lisa's face turned white. That's not possible. I'm not senile, Eleanor said firmly. I'm awake, and I'm angry. Tears welled up, but she didn't let them fall. The hurt was still there, the deep cut of betrayal, but now it fueled her. You wanted to lock me away for land that isn't even fully yours to take. Our parents left it to me because they trusted me to keep it whole, not sell it for quick cash. Mark slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. The doctor said, the doctor was wrong because I played him, just like I played you. She turned to her lawyer, who nodded and slid over the counter documents, evidence of their plan to commit fraud, proof they'd lied about her condition. The siblings' denials started, loud, desperate. We were worried. It was for her safety. But the words sounded hollow now, crumbling like dry leaves. The lawyer spoke next. The court will see this as attempted elder abuse and fraud. The guardianship request is dead on arrival. Mark and Lisa looked at each other, panic in their eyes. Their dream of millions slipped away right there. But Eleanor wasn't done. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a faded envelope she'd found in the attic. Inside was an old letter from her mother, written years ago when Eleanor was just a teenager. There's something else you should know, she said softly. Her voice cracked for the first time, not from weakness, but from emotion too big to hold. Our parents had another child, before me, a little girl they gave up for adoption because times were hard and they were scared. They never told anyone, not even you two. She unfolded the letter, hands shaking. Mom wrote this to me when I turned 18. She said she regretted it every day. She asked me to find her if I could, to make it right. Mark stared. Lisa covered her mouth. What are you saying? I'm saying there's a sister out there, our blood, and because of your greed, because you pushed me to dig through old boxes pretending to forget where things were, I found the clues. Adoption papers, a name, an address in a nearby town. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears now, happy ones mixed with sad. I've already reached out. She's coming next week. She wants to meet us. The room spun for Mark and Lisa. Their plan had backfired in the worst way. Not only had they lost the land battle, the courts would side with Eleanor, protecting the property forever, but they'd lost the chance to keep the family small and controllable. A lost sibling was coming home because of their betrayal. Eleanor stood up slowly. You thought you could take everything from me, but all you did was give me back something I didn't know I was missing. She looked at them with pity now, not hate. Get out of my house, and don't come back unless you're ready to apologize, to me and to her. They left in stunned silence, faces pale, dreams shattered. Eleanor closed the door, leaned against it, and let the tears come. Relief washed over her like cool rain after a long drought. The land was safe, her home was hers, and soon, family, real family, might heal the wounds. Picture this, the old farmhouse porch at sunrise. Soft pink light spills across the wooden steps. Eleanor sits in her favorite rocking chair, a cup of tea warming her hands, heart beating fast with nervous hope. Today isn't about land or betrayal anymore. Today is about family, the kind that was lost and maybe found again. A car pulls up the long gravel driveway. A woman steps out, about Eleanor's age, eyes wide and searching. Their eyes meet across the yard, and something clicks. The missing piece of a puzzle no one knew was broken. This is where the healing begins, and where the siblings face the biggest mirror of their lives. If these stories of forgiveness, second chances, and the unbreakable pull of blood keep pulling at your heartstrings, please subscribe right now and hit the bell. You deserve more endings that feel real and raw. Let's finish this journey together. The morning air smelled like fresh-cut grass and possibility. Eleanor had spent the week cleaning every corner of the house, not because it was dirty, but because she wanted it to feel welcoming. She baked her mother's apple pie recipe, the one with extra cinnamon, the smell drifting out the open windows like an invitation. Her hands shook a little as she set the table. What if the woman, her name was Sarah, didn't feel the connection? What if the years apart were too heavy to bridge? Sarah arrived right on time. She wore a simple blue sweater, hair pulled back, carrying nothing but a small photo album and a nervous smile. Eleanor stepped onto the porch. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Sarah's voice came soft and trembling. "You look just like the picture Mom kept hidden in her drawer." Eleanor's throat tightened. "Come in, honey. I've been waiting a long time." They sat at the kitchen table. Sarah opened the album first. Old black and white photos of a tiny baby wrapped in a blanket, then a young girl growing up in another state with adoptive parents who loved her but never told her the full story. "I only found out last year, after my adoptive mom passed. She left me a letter, said my birth parents were young and scared, but they never stopped loving me." Eleanor reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. It felt strange and right at the same time, like holding a piece of herself she'd been missing. Tears slipped down both their faces. "I was only 16 when Mom had you. I helped change your diapers, sang you to sleep. Then one day you were gone. They told me it was for the best. I never forgave myself for not fighting harder." Sarah squeezed her hand. "You were a child too. None of this was your fault." They talked for hours. About the farm, about lost Christmases, about the little things, like how they both hated olives and loved watching fireflies at dusk. Laughter mixed with tears. The pain of years apart didn't vanish, but it started to soften, like ice melting in warm sunlight. Then the front door opened. Mark and Lisa stood there, invited by Eleanor only because she believed in second chances, even for people who didn't deserve them yet. They looked smaller somehow, shoulders slumped, eyes red from sleepless nights and maybe guilt. Sarah stood up slowly. "You must be my brother and sister." Mark swallowed hard. Lisa's lip trembled. We didn't know," Mark started, "about any of this." Eleanor spoke quietly but firmly. "You didn't know because you never asked. You were too busy planning how to take what wasn't yours." She looked at them with steady eyes. "But Sarah is here now, because your greed pushed me to search the past. So, in a strange way, thank you. You gave me back my sister." Lisa broke first. She covered her face and sobbed. "We're so sorry, Al. We were wrong, so wrong." Mark nodded, voice rough. "We thought the money would fix everything, but it almost destroyed us all." Eleanor didn't hug them, not yet. Forgiveness wasn't instant, but she didn't turn them away either. "Sit down," she said. "There's pie, and there's time to talk. Really talk." They sat together that afternoon, 4 siblings who had never been in the same room before. Awkward at first, then slowly warming. Sarah asked questions, Mark and Lisa answered honestly, shame in their voices. Eleanor listened, her heart still bruised but no longer bleeding. The land outside the window stretched peaceful and green, untouched by their mistakes. Later, as the sun dipped low, Sarah turned to Eleanor. "I don't want the land, I just want family." Eleanor smiled through fresh tears. "You already have it." The court case wrapped quickly after that. The judge saw the evidence, Eleanor's careful notes, the recordings, the fraud attempt, and ruled in her favor. The land stayed hers. No sale, no nursing home, just home. Mark and Lisa started coming around more, not for money but for coffee, for apologies that turned into real conversations. It wasn't perfect. Trust took time to rebuild, but every Sunday now, the porch filled with voices. Laughter, stories, sometimes silence when words weren't enough. Eleanor still rocks in her chair at sunrise, watching the fields. She thinks about her parents, about the baby they gave up, about the siblings who almost broke everything but didn't, and she whispers to the quiet morning, "We made it." Sometimes the best revenge isn't taking something away, it's building something stronger in its place. A family that was cracked but never truly lost. And that, my friends, is how one woman's clever heart turned betrayal into the biggest blessing of her life. Thank you for staying with this story all the way through. If it moved you, drop a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real feeling tales that remind us family can hurt us deepest, but it can also heal us strongest. Imagine standing on that same farmhouse porch a year later. The big oak tree still shades the yard, the creek still sparkles in the distance, but everything feels different, lighter, fuller. alive in a way it hadn't been for years. Eleanor isn't alone anymore. Laughter echoes from inside the house, kids' voices mix with grown-up chatter, plates clink, someone's playing an old guitar. The family that was almost torn apart forever is slowly stitching itself back together. This isn't just the end of a betrayal story, this is the beginning of something beautiful no one saw coming. If stories like this, ones that remind you family wounds can heal, that clever hearts win in the end, and that second chances are real, touch you deep, then subscribe right now and hit the bell. You won't want to miss the next one. Let's close this chapter the right way. 1 full year had passed since that first sunrise meeting with Sarah. The farmhouse looked the same on the outside, white paint peeling just a little, porch swing creaking in the breeze, but inside, life had changed in the quietest, most wonderful ways. Sarah moved closer, not into the big house. She had her own life, her own small home 20 minutes away, but close enough to drop by with coffee most mornings. She brought stories of her childhood Eleanor had missed, and Eleanor shared memories Sarah never knew she had a right to. They laughed about how they both scrunched their noses at cooked carrots. They cried over old letters. They planted a new rose bush together near their mother's grave under the oak, a pink one because Mom always loved pink. Mark and Lisa didn't vanish. They couldn't. Eleanor wouldn't let them. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but it did mean opening the door a crack. They started small, showing up for Sunday dinner with store-bought rolls and genuine apologies that got a little less awkward each time. Mark quit his high-pressure city job and took up carpentry again, the kind he loved as a kid. He fixed the porch steps without being asked. Lisa started volunteering at the same library Eleanor used to help at. She read to the children on Saturday mornings, her voice softer now, less sharp. The land stayed whole. The developer signs came down. Eleanor had a new will drawn up. Everything would pass equally to Sarah, Mark, Lisa, and any future nieces or nephews, but only if they kept the farm as a family place, not a cash-out. No one argued. The greed that once poisoned everything had been replaced, slowly, by something quieter, respect. One warm September afternoon, the whole family gathered under the big oak for a picnic. Blankets spread out, fried chicken, Sarah's famous potato salad, apple pie still warm from the oven. Kids, Sarah's teenage daughter and Mark's 2 little ones, ran through the grass chasing fireflies even though it was still daylight. Eleanor sat in her lawn chair watching it all, a soft smile on her face. Mark came over and sat beside her. He didn't speak right away, just handed her a cold glass of lemonade. After a minute, he said, "I still dream sometimes about that day we tried to make you sign those papers. I wake up sick to my stomach." Eleanor looked at him. "Good," she said gently. "Means you're human." He nodded, eyes shiny. "I'm sorry, Elle, every day. I know, and I forgive you, again, every day." Lisa joined them, sitting cross-legged on the grass like when they were kids. "Sarah asked me to teach her how to make Mom's pie crust. She almost cried when she called me sis for the first time." Eleanor reached out and touched both their hands. "We lost a lot of years, but look around. We didn't lose everything." Sarah walked over last, her daughter trailing behind her, holding a handful of wildflowers. She knelt in front of Eleanor. "Thank you," she whispered, "for never giving up, for pretending to forget so you could remember us all." Eleanor pulled her into a hug, the kind that says more than words ever could, the hug that says, "You're home now. We all are." As the sun dipped lower, painting the fields gold, Eleanor looked out over the land that had started this whole storm. It wasn't just acres anymore. It was roots. It was memories. It was proof that sometimes the hardest fights aren't about winning. They're about refusing to let go of what matters most. She whispered to the breeze, to her parents, to the little sister she once held as a baby. We made it back to each other. And in that moment, with laughter rising around her, Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in decades. Completely, quietly, deeply at peace. That's the real ending. Not revenge, not even justice. Just love. Stubborn, clever, patient love that refused to die. Thank you for riding this emotional roller coaster with me from the first whisper in the kitchen to this sunny picnic under the oak. If Eleanor's story moved you, inspired you, or made you hug your own family a little tighter, leave a comment and tell me what part hit you hardest. Drop a like, share it with someone who needs hope right now, and subscribe so we can keep finding more stories that remind us sometimes pretending to forget is the bravest way to remember who you really are. See you in the next one, friends. Take care of each other. Imagine 5 years from that first painful whisper in the kitchen. The farmhouse isn't just standing, it's thriving. The porch swing still creaks, but now it's surrounded by new flower beds, a fresh coat of white paint, and strings of fairy lights that glow every evening. Voices fill the air year-round, grandchildren running barefoot across the grass, Sarah's laugh mixing with Lisa's, Mark calling everyone to the table for supper. What started as a story of betrayal became something rarer, proof that broken families can mend, not perfectly, but strongly enough to last. This is where we leave Eleanor, not alone, not forgotten, but surrounded by the family she fought to keep. If these kinds of journeys, from heartbreak to hope, from clever revenge to quiet healing, make your heart feel full, then subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Stories like this remind us that real life can have happy endings too. Let's wrap this one up with all the warmth it deserves. 5 years had slipped by like gentle seasons on the farm. The big oak still stood tall, its branches wider now, heavy with leaves in summer and bare against snowy winters. Eleanor was 55, her silver hair brighter, her steps a little slower some days, but her spirit stronger than ever. The land had become more than property. It was a gathering place. Every summer they held a family reunion, not forced, not awkward, but real. Tables groaned under homemade food, Sarah's famous cornbread, Lisa's garden salads, Mark's slow-cooked ribs, Eleanor's apple pie that never failed to disappear first. Kids chased each other through the fields, their shouts echoing off the creek. Grandkids, 4 now, called Eleanor Nana L and Sarah Aunt Sarah with the easy love only children can give. Mark had built a small guest cabin down by the creek. He and his wife lived there part-time, close enough to help with chores but giving Eleanor her space. He spent his days fixing fences, planting new fruit trees, teaching his son how to whittle just like their dad used to. The greed that once lived in his eyes was gone, replaced by quiet pride when he looked at the land he helped protect. Lisa had changed the most. She left her fast city life behind and opened a little flower shop in town. Every week she brought fresh bouquets to the farmhouse, daisies for the kitchen table, roses for their mother's grave. She and Eleanor spent long afternoons on the porch, talking about everything and nothing. The old jealousy had melted away. In its place was gratitude. "I almost lost you," Lisa said once, voice thick. "I never want to feel that again." Eleanor just squeezed her hand. No words needed. Sarah was the heartbeat of it all. She wrote a book, not about the drama, but about the search for roots, the power of second chances. It sold quietly, mostly to people who needed hope. She dedicated it to Eleanor with one simple line, to the sister who remembered when everyone else forgot. Every evening, no matter the weather, the two of them walked the property line together, arms linked, sharing stories until the stars came out. One crisp fall evening, as the family sat around a bonfire in the yard, Eleanor stood up slowly. The kids quieted. Everyone looked at her. She held a small wooden box she'd kept hidden for years. "I found this in the attic the same week I started pretending," she said, voice steady but soft. "It was Mom's. Inside are letters she wrote to each of us, letters she never sent." She opened the box, 4 yellowed envelopes, one for each child. She handed them out. Mark's hands shook as he took his. Lisa pressed hers to her chest. Sarah stared at the one with her name, written before she was even given away. "Read them when you're ready," Eleanor said, "or together, or alone. But know this, Mom loved us all, even when she couldn't keep us close, even when she made hard choices. She never stopped loving." Tears fell freely that night, happy ones, healing ones. They read the letters by firelight, words of pride, regret, dreams for each child. Mom had written to Sarah, "My little girl, I hope one day you find your way home, and when you do, know your big sister will be waiting." Eleanor looked around the fire at the faces lit by flickering flames. Her brother, her sisters, the children who carried all their names forward. The betrayal felt like a distant memory now, faded like an old scar. She sat back down, pulled a blanket over her lap, and smiled at the sky. "I pretended to forget so I could remember what really matters." And in that quiet moment, with crackling fire and soft laughter around her, Eleanor knew she hadn't just saved the land, she'd saved them all. Thank you for staying with Eleanor through every twist, every tear, every sunrise. This story started with pain, but ended with peace. And that's the kind of ending worth believing in. If it touched you, leave a comment. What would you do if you were Eleanor? Drop a like, share it with someone who needs to believe in family again, and subscribe so we can keep telling stories that feel like home. Imagine 10 years down the road. Eleanor is 60 now, hair fully silver, laugh lines deeper around her eyes from so much smiling. The farmhouse porch has new rocking chairs, one for each sister, one for Mark when he visits. The big oak tree has a carved wooden bench underneath it now, where grandkids sit and listen to stories. A small sign by the gate reads simply, "The Harper Family Place, established 1928, kept whole by love." What began as a dark plot of greed turned into the strongest family bond anyone in town has ever seen. This isn't just an ending. This is proof that sometimes the deepest wounds grow the most beautiful scars. If stories that start with pain but finish with unbreakable hope make you believe in second chances all over again, subscribe right now and hit that bell. These are the tales that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Let's give Eleanor the send-off she deserves. 10 years had woven themselves into the fabric of the farm, like ivy climbing the old fence posts. Slow, steady, beautiful. Eleanor woke most mornings to the sound of birds and the smell of coffee already brewing. Sarah usually beat her to the kitchen these days, humming old hymns while she flipped pancakes. "Morning, big sis," she'd say with a grin, sliding a plate over. Eleanor would pretend to grumble about being spoiled, but her eyes always sparkled. The land looked better than ever. Mark had planted an orchard behind the house. Apples, peaches, cherries. Every fall they picked together, baskets overflowing, kids climbing ladders with sticky fingers. Lisa's flower garden stretched along the driveway now, bursts of color that drew butterflies and neighbors stopping by just to say hello. The developer signs were long gone, replaced by wildflowers and memories. The family had grown in ways no one expected. Sarah's daughter was in college now, studying agriculture so she could keep the farm going someday. Mark's kids treated the place like their second home, running through the fields with Sarah's grandnephews and nieces like they'd all grown up together from the start. Birthdays, holidays, even ordinary Sundays, someone was always there. The house never felt empty again. One quiet winter afternoon, snow blanketing the fields like a soft white quilt, Eleanor gathered everyone in the living room. The fireplace crackled, hot chocolate steamed in mugs. She pulled out the same wooden box from years ago, the one with Mom's unsent letters. "I've been thinking," she said, voice gentle but sure. These letters were Mom's way of saying what she couldn't say out loud, but we've said a lot to each other since then. So today, I want us to add our own. She passed around fresh envelopes and pens. No rules, just hearts on paper. Mark wrote first. His handwriting was careful, like he was afraid the words might break. He wrote about regret, about learning what family really costs, about how proud he was to be their brother again. Lisa's letter was longer, full of apologies that had turned into promises, to show up, to listen, to plant more flowers so the world felt less hard. Sarah wrote with tears smudging the ink. She thanked Eleanor for searching, for waiting, for loving a stranger who became sister. She wrote to the little baby she used to be, "You made it home, and home made me whole." Eleanor wrote last. Her letter was short. "To my family, Mark, Lisa, Sarah, and every little one who runs these fields. I pretended to forget so I could hear the truth. But the real truth I never forgot was this: love doesn't give up, even when it's hurt, even when it's angry, even when it has to fight. You tried to take my home once. Instead, you gave me the biggest one I've ever known. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for staying. Forever yours, Eleanor. Nana L., Big Sis, Keeper of the Land." She folded it, tucked it into the box with the others, and closed the lid. No one spoke for a long minute. Then Sarah started to sing, an old lullaby their mother used to hum. One by one, voices joined in, shaky at first, then stronger. The kids listened wide-eyed. Snow fell outside the window like quiet blessings. Later, when everyone had gone to bed or back to their own homes, Eleanor stepped onto the porch alone. The air was cold and clean. Stars glittered over the dark fields. She wrapped her shawl tighter and looked out over the land that had once been threatened, now safe, loved, shared. "I remembered everything," she whispered to the night, "and look what we built because of it." She smiled, small, peaceful, complete. Years later, long after Eleanor was gone, the family still gathered under that oak. The box of letters sat on the mantel, read aloud every reunion. New ones were added: birth announcements, apologies, thank yous, love notes. The farm stayed whole. The story stayed alive. Because sometimes pretending to forget isn't about hiding, it's about giving everyone time to remember who they really are. And in the end, that's the greatest victory of all. Thank you for walking every step of this journey with me, from the kitchen whispers to the snowy porch, from betrayal to bonfires, from pain to peace. Eleanor's story isn't just hers anymore, it's a reminder for all of us. Hold on tight, forgive when you can, fight smart when you must, and never stop believing in the power of family finding its way home. If this full arc moved you, hook, heartbreak, clever twist, healing, legacy, leave a comment and tell me which part made you tear up the most. Hit like if you believe in happy endings that feel earned. Share it with someone who needs hope today. And subscribe so we can keep chasing stories that remind us love wins, even when it has to pretend to forget first. Until the next one, keep your heart open. The best reunions are still waiting. Imagine the farmhouse 20 years from now. Eleanor has been gone for a decade, but her presence lingers everywhere, like sunlight caught in the leaves of the big oak tree. The porch swing still sways gently in the breeze. New generations sit there now, great-grandchildren listening to stories about Nana L, the clever woman who saved the farm with nothing but her memory and her heart. The land stretches unchanged, green hills, sparkling creek, fruit trees heavy with blossoms. A weathered sign by the gate still reads, "The Harper Family Place, kept whole by love." Every spring, the family plants new roses near the graves. Every fall, they pick apples and read the letters from the wooden box. What started as whispers of betrayal became a legacy of love so strong it outlived the pain. This is where the story rests, not closed, but blooming forever. If journeys like this, from the darkest family secrets to the brightest healing, have stayed with you through every part, made you laugh, cry, hope, then please subscribe right now and hit the bell. These stories are for hearts that still believe family can find its way back. Let's end this one the way it deserves, soft, full, and true. 20 years after the first overheard whisper in that old kitchen, the farm had become something almost sacred. The White House wore fresh paint every few years, always the same bright white Eleanor loved. The orchard Mark planted had grown into a small forest of fruit. Children climbed the branches, filling baskets while grandparents watched from lawn chairs. Lisa's flower gardens had spread like wild joy, sunflowers nodding along the fence, lavender buzzing with bees, roses climbing the trellis she built with her own hands. Sarah lived in the guest cabin now, the one Mark built so long ago. She wrote more books, quiet ones, about roots, forgiveness, second chances. Each one carried a piece of Eleanor's story without ever naming the pain. Readers wrote letters saying things like, "Your words helped me call my sister after 20 years." Sarah kept every one in a shoebox on her shelf. The wooden box of letters had grown heavy with time. New envelopes joined the old ones every year. Births, weddings, apologies that came late but came anyway. Thank yous from grandchildren who never met Eleanor but knew her through stories. On reunion weekends, someone always read aloud from the box. Voices cracked with laughter and tears. The kids listened, wide-eyed, learning that family isn't perfect, it's stubborn, it fights, it pretends when it has to, it remembers when it matters most. One golden October afternoon, the whole clan gathered under the oak like always. Picnic blankets, laughter, pie. A great-granddaughter, 8 years old, with Eleanor's same determined eyes, climbed into the big rocking chair on the porch. She held one of the old letters carefully like it was made of glass. "Read it to us, sweetie," Sarah said softly. The little girl unfolded the paper. Her small voice carried across the yard. "I pretended to forget so I could hear the truth. But the real truth I never forgot was this. Love doesn't give up, even when it's hurt, even when it's angry, even when it has to fight." She looked up, confused. "Who wrote this?" Sarah smiled, tears shining. "Your great-grandmother, Nana L. She saved this place, and she saved us." The girl nodded solemnly. "She was brave." "Yes," Mark said from the blanket, voice rough with emotion. "The bravest person I ever knew." They sat in silence for a while, just listening to the wind move through the leaves. Somewhere, a child laughed, a dog barked, the creek sang its endless song. Life kept going, messy, loud, beautiful. And somewhere, in the quiet spaces between heartbeats, Eleanor's spirit felt it all. She had pretended to forget once, so the family could remember who they were meant to be. In the end, they did. They built something stronger than land, deeper than money, truer than any plot or plan. Love won. Quietly, completely, forever. A small note from me, your storyteller. This entire tale, every whisper, every tear, every sunrise, is fiction, crafted with heart to feel real and raw. No real people were betrayed or healed in the making of this story. It's just a reminder we all need sometimes. Family can break us, but it can also put us back together in ways we never imagined. Thank you for letting it touch you. A huge, heartfelt thank you to YouTube and the amazing YouTube team for giving storytellers like me a home to share these emotional journeys, for the platform that connects hearts across the world, and for every like, comment, share, and subscribe that keeps these tales alive. If Eleanor's story moved you, drop one last comment. What will you remember most? Hit like one more time if you believe in healing after hurt. Share it with someone who needs to know love can win. And subscribe so we can meet again soon for the next story that feels like coming home. Until then, hold your people close. Forgive when you can. Fight smart when you must. And never stop remembering what really matters. With all my gratitude and love. See you in the next one, friends.